We move to 24-27, naming of rooms of Heritage Centre in Granville.
Madam Mayor, very quickly.
Oh, sorry, 109A Church Street. I beg your pardon. Don't fall asleep.
At the outset, really, I'd like to ask the question if I can add one more part of this motion to see if it's available to be able to do so. And it is another item under number 4. It would then become number 5, and number 5 would then become number 6. And it reads, support the residents by endorsing and organising a campaign against a waste transfer station at this site. Mm-hmm. Is that permissible? Now, this is different wording to exactly what we put to the Mayor before, and equally too, because of being acceptable to put in outsources the assessment of the DA so that there is no contradictory positioning. That this would therefore be attached in that respect. Is that excessive? It is different wording to what was there before.
Councillor, I'm going to have to rule on point 5. There is precedence here. I understand that the previous Mayor ruled it as unlawful.
I've got an
organising and campaigning against.
The previous one read supports the residents by endorsing and organising a campaign against any waste transfer station. This one is obviously about this particular site. So
Councillor, I'm not quite sure how that's different. I'm going to rule that out of order.
Different wording than what I said.
I've ruled that out of order, Councillor.
Well, I don't think it is, because then why would it be acceptable to have the initial one of number 4? Well, if that's the case, then
Councillor, you have the floor.
Support a resident by finding out the value of such a site. My initial wording had been against a waste transfer station at this site, so it wasn't the specific of any waste transfer station, so that is a difference. Look, my purpose for putting this, so it would be at in.
Councillor, the clock's going.
The purpose of this is obviously because of the timing of the circumstances. The General Manager has been very assisting in providing details to the councillors about circumstances. I don't know if anything's changed since this had been just recently. And, of course, to be able to, the fact that we are, as I've put on here, that we are running into Christmas period, the timing of this is just inappropriate, which happens with DAs, and when it's something that, if it is put in, will affect the residents enormously. And consequently, particularly given, as I've brought up before a number of times, we have got such a wide multicultural area, an understanding of this is unbelievably difficult for those. And the timing of this running into where we are, and this is the purpose of putting this forward, is if that, and as it said there, articulating the update and the DA processing, which would occur upon its acceptance. And of course, people even understood acceptance as meaning, oh my God, the DA's already been approved. And I've had to explain, no, acceptance means it's taken in and it will start to get handled. So simplistic wording is not easy for people in our very multicultural area, and running into Christmas mode, everyone's always just too flat out. It would be very easy to miss any documentation that comes through, and that's why at the outset I feel that we need to ensure that our people are informed of this. And similarly, as before, it was just to give this update and the status to the residents who placed a objection previously, and any documents to residents of the Lidcombe area indicating the current status of the circumstances.
Councillor Garrard, as a mover, did you want to speak to this? No. Councillor Yasar.
At what point can I give an amendment? I'm not being rude. Later?
Any point.
You go for it, mate. No, go for it. Yep, I'll do it up.
I've read this and written down some notes. So I believe we should defer the matter pending legal advice as to the validity and legality of the councillor being able to get involved in specific assessment controls. The matter being referred to as we know it is it's not a DA currently. We're assuming that it'll become a DA, however history has shown that it was withdrawn previously and maybe withdrawn again. We don't know whether it will become a matter for the regional planning panel or for the Land and Environment Court, or it may end up in the Land and Environment Court. So as to save any speculation or assumptions, we need to be provided with legal advice as to whether we as councillors legally can get involved in a DA at the time it becomes a DA, and how far we are able to be involved. If it does end up at the regional planning panel, then some councillor members may need to declare an interest. If not, then they may not be required to declare an interest. And I've actually had my own legal advice about this, which is why I'm reading it. As this matter is really sitting in limbo, we should be armed with the correct legal advice in order to make an informed decision and not place any councillor or even the council in a compromising position. Why? No, that's mine. No, it's defer it for legal advice. Yeah. As to the validity, why are we even talking about it? It's not a DA currently. And
it is a DA, isn't it? Yeah, it is a DA.
Can I suggest that's a foreshadowed motion?
Yeah.
We'll keep it up there. We don't need a seconder for a foreshadowed motion.
You can't he?
Not a foreshadowed motion at this stage. Not at this stage. Well, we don't need a seconder at this stage. Can I have some order in the chamber, please? I don't have an intent on taking you out of it. You'll have an opportunity to second it if the foreshadowed motion becomes the motion. If you don't know your code of meeting practice, I suggest you start reading. That is a foreshadowed motion, therefore we will continue to debate the motion.
Foreshadowed motion. The so-called foreshadowed motion would be moved as an amendment. There's only a foreshadowed motion if there's already an amendment in place.
So move to code of meeting practice, make an amendment.
Deal with the specifics. We're just dealing with the motion.
First, the discussion.
Is this an amendment? It's an amendment.
Councillor Young, you've got the floor. We're debating the motion.
First. Yeah, before we put the motion,
What the heck?
I understand practice code. Just a moment.
I call dissent and we go to a vote.
Just a moment.
Clr Rahme has stated
It's an amendment because there's nothing else there.
No,
Correct.
I call dissent.
just a moment. Practice code, according to practice code, a decision supported by a majority of the votes. That is clause part 17.1. I can look at the practice code. So in case all okay, this one all one by one. Before we put the motion, we are actually total up. Agree or not? I am asking to you because all majority resident community actually we don't accept this DA. That's a situation actually. So we can big picture. We can look at. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
I've actually called dissent. Can we have a vote now?
Councillor Christou, I'm trying to clarify, if you give me a minute.
Councillor Rahme said it's an amendment.
The problem is you don't read your code.
unnecessarily in the chamber. It's a simple amendment. Is this the road you're going to go down?
I'll accept that. I'll accept that as an amendment. I will accept that as an amendment.
Just a quick question.
Councillor, I'll allow you to speak in a minute. Can we just deal with the order of proceedings? So we'll accept that. I'll accept that as an amendment.
And can I second it?
No, it's seconded by Councillor Christou. So we will now debate the amendment. Councillor Rahme.
I've got a question to start. I don't start my time. In reference to the statement that it is a DA that's been submitted, I believe it hasn't been paid for yet, and through you, Madam Mayor, to the relevant officer, this hasn't been paid for and therefore is not registered, so it's not a submitted DA. Can you confirm that? Through the relevant officer.
Through you, Mayor, Councillor Rahme, it hasn't been paid for yet.
So it's not a DA?
There is a DA in the system.
Is it registered?
It is registered on the planning portal. It's been submitted through the planning portal.
Yeah.
It just has not commenced assessment yet.
Cool. So that's the purpose of my motion, that we are debating something that's hasn't even started.
So Councillor, you're entering into a debate.
That's it, yeah. That's
it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to protect everyone in this room.
Thank you. Councillor Garrard, you have the floor. Councillor Christou as the seconder. Would you like to say something?
No, I think Councillor Rahme made a valid point. I am concerned that councillors should not be entering into DA matters and actively debating on them. And I would be more comfortable if we seek legal advice on it and protected ourselves. That way, we receive the legal advice, we're all protected because we've acted in good faith.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Garrard.
Well, I think Councillor Christou just answered his own question, because the issue that he just answered was if Councillor Hughes had left the other clause in relating to us running a campaign against it. That's the answer to that. But that clause is not there anymore. So what you've got there is points 1 to 5, which are quite normal for a council to undertake when it has a major DA to consider, particularly in relation to this one, which is the matter. I'll ask a question: is the matter to be outsourced? It was previously.
Through you, Mayor, Councillor Garrard. Yes, we have made those arrangements, but because the DA is not being paid for yet, we haven't commenced the assessment.
So, because it hasn't been paid for, but we do have a DA in, right? At the end of the day, there's nothing in that in points 1 to 5, which is going to contradict our position as an authority, because the DAs, we won't be assessing the DA. For any deferment to happen now is going to be extremely, extremely difficult by virtue of the fact that we've got our Christmas period coming up. And if there's going to be any acceptance of the DA during that Christmas period, in terms of its activity, it's going to be harder to explain that position to the wider community. If Councillor Rahme's comments, his amendment would be correct if the DA wasn't in, but it is in. And this is the same action at the last council meeting.
Well, this is the last. It was to be the last.
This is the last council meeting.
That's fine.
So, I mean, if we defer this in any fashion or form, and not take a logical approach to this, we're just really frustrating our position with residents in being able to keep the momentum of activity out there. And there's a lot of activity. And I've got to compliment the council staff who have been able to ensure that the up-to-date position is being made available to residents. We've done well in order to do that. We need to do that Don't take the lid off the pressure cooker now. That's important. Keep doing what we're doing. And this resolution that is being opposed by the amendment is the way to go. The amendment does not service anything at all because it's all based on the assumption that the DA is not in. And it is.
I've got a question. Two questions, actually, and I'll be very quick.
Councillor, I'm just going to go to Councillor Yasar, and then you can ask your question.
Yep, so before I start, I want to ask a question. So the amendment that Helen proposed was taken off for legal reasons. What is the legal boundary, when it comes to council campaigning on certain DA issues?
Can I ask my question because it actually relates to that?
Sure, yeah, go for it, Rahme. Yep.
I've been in council for 4 terms, okay? And this is an honest question. I actually want to know. Why are we outsourcing this DA? In my 4 terms, we've never outsourced the DA. Can I ask why we're outsourcing this one?
If you attended the workshops in the last council, you would have known.
That's all right.
Order,
I'm asking a
please,
valid
Councillor
question.
Garrard. Order.
I know why it's getting outsourced.
Councillor Rahme.
And I don't like my answer, but
Councillor
I want to know
Rahme.
from the horse's mouth.
Succinct questions, please, General Manager.
Through you, Mayor, if I answered your response to your question, Councillor Rahme. Through you, Mayor, we outsourced the DA because we didn't want to have a perception or create an opportunity where there could be a conflict with the elected council's position on the matter and the administration's matter. And because the administration is the one who are the assessing authority, as you would know, council, and I've got to be very clear because we're in open session, so I'm going to ask all councillors as a general warning, we are in open session and this matter could very well end up in court, so I'm going to caution.
That concerns me, hence my motion.
I'm going to caution council in there. Councillor Rahme, please let me finish.
Yeah.
So what we do is that we try not to create the potential for conflict. So we made a decision to outsource the assessment of the DA so that there could not be any argument with respect to a conflict between the elected body of this council and the administration.
But hang on, my question continues, to paraphrase. So we're outsourcing it so that we allow councillors in this chamber to grandstand and talk about it, because, just hear me out, we've had other big issues in my time in this council. Bonds, the Dill Dam site, which was very controversial, we never outsourced that. Why are we outsourcing this DA?
Councillor
There's been a lot of controversial issues.
Councillor Rahme.
There's been a lot of controversial
Councillor Rahme,
issues
I'm going to give you an opportunity
based on your reasoning,
Councillor
and
Rahme.
we haven't outsourced them. Why are we outsourcing
Councillor
this one?
Councillor Rahme.
And as far as I'm aware,
Councillor Rahme, I'm going to give you an opportunity to speak. We're asking questions. We don't argue during questions. Your question needs to be succinct. You've asked a question. It's been responded to. You'll have an opportunity to speak on the original motion at some point.
You're very careful.
Councillor Yasar.
I'm speaking against the motion. You said that the DA hasn't been lodged, and there might be some technical truth to that, but the letters have gone out to the community. So the community has received letters to say that this DA is back in action, right? So as far as...
That doesn't determine the DA being lodged.
Well, we're here to represent...
Councillor Rahme. Councillor Rahme, please allow Councillor Yasar to speak in silence. Thank you.
We're here to represent the community. The community. This is a very important issue in our community. Steve and Helen could attest to that. So it doesn't matter if some technical back end the DA hasn't been accepted or whatnot. The residents received the letter, right? So in that respect, it's on, right? And to put it off now and wait for legal advice isn't serving our community. We all fought for election opposing this tip. I think everyone on this council should oppose it. It's not suitable for the area. No one wants it. There's more than 100 truck movements a day in a heavily residential area. It's not suitable. And I think if anyone has any interest in this tip would know that this is not suitable. We should all be up in arms about it. So I hope we do all that we can and we support Helen and Paul's motion after we knock yours off, hopefully. Thanks.
Councillor Rahme, I'll give you an opportunity to speak in a minute. Councillor Sarkis.
Madam Mayor, I support the original motion and I speak against the amendment. And the reason for me doing that is I think it's a time thing. And if we were to defer this and the applicants were to pay for this tomorrow, this would be advertised and dealt with before our next council meeting, which is in 3 months and 2 weeks from today. Right? It's in 3.5 months from today. So if we were to defer this, that's gone for 3.5 months. In that time, this matter may well be dealt with. On that basis, I would support the original motion because it's critical. And if I can, Madam Mayor, if we go back to the motion that was carried just before this one with the review of the LEP and DCP, that actually goes through what's permissible in various areas. Hopefully when that comes back, that will say that transfer stations along that corridor of Lidcombe will be a prohibited use, right? But until that happens, I mean, we're talking 6 months away from now, right? But in the interim, in the short term, I think that it's critical that this motion gets up, the motion, not the amendment. I love you, Joe, but it's got to be dealt with. And in the interest of the people of Cumberland whom we represent, I fully support the motion and I speak against the amendment and I move the amendment be put.
Before we do that, I've got a quick question for the General Manager. General Manager, I understand we've had some legal advice on this. Is that correct?
Through you, Mayor, yes, that's correct.
Okay, well, can I suggest we take a 5-minute adjournment? So I'm going to adjourn the meeting for 5 minutes until I get briefed on that. Thank you. Meeting's adjourned. Councillors, will now resume. So we're on the amendment at the moment.
So the amendment, I moved already that the amendment be put.
Can I just pick up where we left off before we do that? I just need to get my head around it. So I've had an amendment, Rahme Christou. Rahme and Christou have both spoken. We've had 5 people speaking for the amendment. Did you speak against the amendment, Councillor? So one person speak against the amendment. You spoke against the amendment? Councillor Sarkis spoke against the amendment.
Our amendment needs to say that we don't want the assessment to be outsourced. It's a new DA, even if it's accepted or not, it's going to be a new DA.
So you're changing your amendment?
The amendment needs to say, in light of discussion, the amendment needs to say that we are assessing it, it's not outsourced.
I know, but the mover does have in accordance with the code, the mover does have an opportunity to
Have an opportunity after that.
That's fine, leave it then. Leave it. Don't argue with leave it. Defer it then. Leave it as it is. If we can't change it, leave the amendment as it is, let's vote on it.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna put the motion. All those in favour, the amendment. I beg your pardon. All those in favour of the Rahme Christou amendment, please raise your hand. Councillor Christou, Councillor Rahme. Councillor Kafrini. All those against the Rahme Christou amendment, please raise your hand. Councillor Garrard, Councillor Hughes, Councillor Yang, Councillor Sarkis, Councillor Alf, Councillor Selvin, Councillor Yasar and Councillor Saha. I declare that lost. And Councillor Hammond, I declare that lost. We now move back to the original motion. Councillor Hughes, write a reply. Move the motion. Write a reply. There's no one else that wants to speak anyway.
Exactly as I had it in the summary. It was that given that the initial information had been provided, It is and I've written anticipated, formally accepted. The timing of this was running into the pre-Christmas period. Again and again and again, I have highlighted that we have got such a multicultural area, and it is extremely difficult for people to understand circumstances. So it was just the timing of this that I had put this through, and because this was planned to be the final council meeting of the year. This is the issue. If we were going to have another meeting in a fortnight, I would have held off until then. But I'm trying to be responsible. I'm working for the people. This is, and with commentary made about other DAs, we had over 2,000 submissions of objection, and that has not occurred for any other DA. So there is so much concern and wrath to have a site like this 70 metres away from a residential area. There is grave concern. And even in that particular site, when the initial DA had been put through, that was almost at the end of built time. People had not quite moved in completeness there. So, but people then had heard about it, started to put in a concern, getting phone calls, etc. There is now more there. And time again, we've still been asked about what's going on. People are scared. They are residents in the area and they are scared. So it would only be the appropriate thing to do to bring this up, because it was the last scheduled council meeting and it's about helping and working for the people. And as it says at section 5, it was to hold a public meeting to provide upfront information articulating the update and DA processing which will occur upon its acceptance. So I'm not suggesting that we were to do a public meeting immediately, acceptance meeting of that DA. It's working for the people. And with our very wide multicultural people, we need to try and get information to them in varying ways, and just to give them an assurance that we are across this and still working for them. And certainly running into Christmas mode, and then of course January time when lots of people are away, school holidays, etc., it's going to be extremely difficult. I remember at the time, the first time, the General Manager had actually said to me, God, I've never seen 700 objections. I said, good, there's more to come. And there was. But people were scared that the number that we had was not even enough. So even though we had 2,000, that wasn't sufficient for them. That's the way they felt. There is so much scare in our area, and that was the reason that I put this forward, to look after the people in the area.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. I'll now put the motion. All those in favour of Councillor Hughes and Garrard's motion, please raise your hand. Councillor Garrard, Councillor Hughes, Councillor Yang, Councillor Kafruni, Councillor Alf, Councillor Selvin, Councillor Yasar, and Councillor Saha, and Councillor Hamid. All those against? Councillor Christou, Councillor Rahme. Declare that carried.